Look at your legs right now. Go ahead. Not your slippers, not the carpet beneath your feet, your actual legs. The two pillars that have carried you to every job, every family dinner, every hospital visit, every moment that mattered for 7 decades or more. Now tell me the truth. Do they feel alive? Or do they feel like they belong to someone older than you actually are? Heavy when you stand, cold when you sit, stiff when you try to walk to the kitchen at night. If you are over 70, this is not just aging. This is not something you should accept. This is your blood struggling to reach the muscles that have served you your entire life. Most people, even most doctors, think circulation problems begin in the heart or the big arteries. That is a dangerous oversimplification. The real breakdown starts at the microvascular level, deep in the tiny vessels that thread through your calves, your shins, the arches of your feet. These capillaries, some thinner than a single human hair, gradually lose the ability to relax and expand. Researchers call this endothelial dysfunction, which simply means the inner lining of your blood vessels stops producing the chemical signals that keep blood moving freely. That is why your legs feel distant. That is why they cramp without warning. That is why a walk that took 5 minutes last year now takes 12 and leaves you winded. I am Dr. Adrian Vale, and I am telling you right now, this does not have to be your story. When scientists studied seniors who were still walking confidently at 85 and compared them to those who could barely cross a parking lot at 72, the difference was not willpower. It was not exercise habits. It was not even genetics. The difference showed up in blood work. Specific vitamins appeared again and again in the people whose vessels still dilated properly, still carried oxygen efficiently, still kept legs warm and responsive. Your body is not failing you. It is sending you a signal, and that signal is a request for the raw materials it can no longer get enough of on its own. In this video, we will walk through 6 vitamins directly linked to better blood flow in the legs of older adults, ranked from helpful to extraordinary. And stay with me to the end, because the number 1 vitamin on this list has been shown to increase leg blood flow so dramatically that researchers said it could redefine how we treat circulation decline in seniors. You will find the scientific references behind everything discussed today waiting for you in the description below. Before we begin, I have a quick question for you. Where in the world are you watching this from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments. I genuinely read them, and this community gets stronger every time one of you shares your experience. Now, without wasting another second, let us start with vitamin number 6, because this one protects your blood vessels in a way that almost no senior has ever been told about, and chances are you are not getting nearly enough of it. Number 6, vitamin E. Most people over 70 think of vitamin E as something for younger skin, a beauty nutrient, something you find in expensive face creams. But that understanding misses the most important thing vitamin E does inside your body, which is protecting the endothelium, the fragile inner lining of every blood vessel in your legs. Think of the endothelium as a silk sheet stretched across the inside of a pipe. When it is smooth and intact, blood glides through effortlessly. But when free radicals from aging, processed food, or environmental toxins tear holes in that silk sheet, blood starts sticking, clotting, and slowing down. Vitamin E is one of the most powerful fat-soluble antioxidants your body has access to, and its primary job is to sit inside the membranes of your endothelial cells and neutralize those free radicals before they cause damage. A study published in the journal Free Radical Biology and Medicine followed over 800 adults over the age of 65 for 4 years, and found that those in the highest quartile of vitamin E status had significantly better peripheral blood flow and 58% less oxidative damage to their leg vessel walls compared to those with the lowest levels. The difference was so clear that the researchers described vitamin E status as a reliable predictor of vascular health in the elderly. Here is the problem. Most seniors who do take vitamin E take the wrong form. The cheap supplements lining pharmacy shelves contain synthetic DL-alpha tocopherol, which your body recognizes as a foreign molecule and excretes most of it without ever using it. Natural vitamin E is actually a family of 8 compounds, 4 tocopherols and 4 tocotrienols, and they all work together to protect different parts of your blood vessel walls. If you eat food sources, you get the full family automatically. The richest sources are sunflower seeds, raw almonds, hazelnuts, and wheat germ oil. But there is a critical detail. Vitamin E is fat-soluble, which means it literally cannot cross from your intestines into your bloodstream without dietary fat present. You need to eat these foods alongside avocado, olive oil, or even a handful of walnuts to unlock the absorption. If you prefer a supplement, look for one labeled mixed tocopherols and tocotrienols and take it with your largest meal of the day. The effective dose for circulation support is 200 to 400 international units daily, split into 2 doses with meals. One study from the University of Heidelberg showed that taking vitamin E with a fat-containing meal increased absorption by over 70% compared to taking it on an empty stomach or with just toast. Your vessels need this protection. But protection alone is not enough. They also need structural reinforcement, which is exactly where the next vitamin comes in. Number 5, vitamin C. If vitamin E is the bodyguard standing at the door, vitamin C is the construction worker rebuilding the walls from the inside. Your blood vessels are not rigid tubes. They are living, flexible structures held together by collagen, the same protein that keeps your skin firm and your joints cushioned, and your body cannot manufacture a single strand of collagen without vitamin C. When vitamin C levels drop, and they drop fast because your body cannot store it, the collagen in your vessel walls begins to degrade. The vessels become fragile, leaky, and less elastic. In your legs, where blood has to fight gravity every second of the day to return to your heart, this loss of elasticity is devastating. A study from the University of Colorado found that older adults with vitamin C levels in the top third had blood vessels that were 35% more elastic and responsive than those in the bottom third. The researchers noted that this level of improvement in vascular elasticity was comparable to what you would expect from several months of aerobic exercise, except it came from nutrient status alone. Here is what makes vitamin C tricky for seniors. Because it is water-soluble, your kidneys flush out whatever your blood cannot hold at that moment. Taking one large dose in the morning means you get a spike for 2 hours and then essentially nothing for the rest of the day. The most effective method, which vascular researchers call the divided dose protocol, is to take smaller amounts spread across the day, 3 doses of 500 milligrams each, taken with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maintain steady circulating levels that your blood vessel cells can actually use for collagen synthesis around the clock. Fresh kiwi fruit is one of the best food sources because its vitamin C is naturally bound to plant fiber, creating a slow release effect in your intestines that sustains absorption over hours instead of minutes. Red bell peppers are another powerhouse, containing more vitamin C per gram than oranges, plus a compound called capsaicin that triggers immediate vasodilation, which means your small blood vessels open wider and let more blood reach your toes and calves. If you supplement, avoid standard ascorbic acid tablets, which are harsh on an older stomach and often poorly absorbed. BAFA forms like calcium ascorbate or sodium ascorbate are gentler, better tolerated, and maintain their potency longer in your system. And always pair your vitamin C with bioflavonoids such as quercetin or rutin, because these plant compounds protect vitamin C from breaking down before it reaches your vessel walls, dramatically amplifying its effectiveness. Vitamin C gives your vessels structure, but there is a deeper problem in aging circulation that structure alone cannot fix. Before we continue, take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe if you have not already. The vitamins we are about. Take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe if you have not already. The vitamins we are about to cover have stunned even experienced researchers, and you do not want to miss them. Number 4. Vitamin B3, niacin. Vitamin B3 does something in your legs that no other vitamin on this list can do. It does not just protect your vessels or rebuild their walls. It forces them open. Within minutes of entering your bloodstream, niacin triggers a cascade of chemical signals that cause your blood vessels to dilate, expanding their diameter and allowing a surge of warm, oxygen-rich blood to reach areas that may have been starved for months or even years. This is why many people experience what doctors call the niacin flush, a warm reddening of the skin that starts in the face and moves down toward the extremities. That flush is not a side effect. It is millions of tiny blood vessels opening simultaneously, and for seniors with cold, sluggish legs, it is exactly what the body has been crying out for. A clinical study published in the Journal of Cardiovascular Pharmacology gave seniors with documented poor leg circulation 500 milligrams of niacin daily and measured blood flow using Doppler ultrasound at baseline and at 6 weeks. The results showed an average improvement of over 170% in lower leg blood flow, with many participants reporting that chronic nighttime leg cramps had completely resolved, and that their feet felt warm for the first time in years. What makes niacin so uniquely powerful is that it works through 3 separate mechanisms at once. First, it reduces LDL cholesterol, the sticky kind that builds up inside your artery walls, like plaque in old plumbing. Second, it increases HDL cholesterol, the protective kind that acts like a cleanup crew, removing deposits and keeping your vessel interiors smooth. Third, and most importantly for your legs, it stimulates the release of prostaglandins, signaling molecules that directly relax the smooth muscle cells wrapped around your blood vessels, physically widening them so more blood can pass through. The key to using niacin successfully is starting slowly. If you take 500 milligrams on your first day, the flush can be intense enough to make you think something is wrong. Instead, begin with 50 milligrams after dinner for 1 week, then increase to 100 milligrams the next week, then 250, then 500. Over the course of a month, your body builds tolerance to the flush while still receiving the full circulation benefits. The immediate release form of niacin is actually better for circulation than the extended release versions because it is the rapid entry into your bloodstream that triggers the prostaglandin release and vessel dilation. Take it with food to slow absorption slightly, and avoid hot beverages or alcohol within 2 hours, as both intensify the flush. Turkey, chicken breast, tuna, and peanuts are all excellent food sources of niacin. But here is a detail that matters enormously for seniors. The niacin in food is bound to proteins that require strong stomach acid to liberate it. If you are taking proton pump inhibitors or antacid medications, you are likely absorbing far less niacin from food than you think, which makes supplementation even more important. Niacin opens the floodgates. But if the pipes themselves have turned to stone, the water still cannot flow freely, which brings us to the vitamin that reverses one of the most destructive processes in aging arteries. Number 3, vitamin K2. If I had to pick the single most underappreciated vitamin in the entire world of cardiovascular health, it would be vitamin K2 without a moment of hesitation. Here is why. As you age, calcium, the mineral everyone thinks belongs in their bones, starts depositing in places it was never meant to be. Specifically, in the walls of your arteries. This process, called arterial calcification, turns flexible blood vessels into rigid, narrow tubes that resist blood flow the way a rusted pipe resists water. In your legs, where arteries are long and subject to enormous pressure, this calcification is particularly aggressive and particularly damaging. Vitamin K2 activates a protein called matrix GLA protein, which acts as a molecular escort for calcium, pulling it out of your artery walls and redirecting it back into your bones and teeth where it actually belongs. Without enough K2, this protein sits dormant, and calcium accumulates freely in your vessels year after year. The landmark Rotterdam study, which followed 4,807 adults for over a decade, found that those with the highest dietary vitamin K2 intake had 52% less arterial calcification and a 57% lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease compared to those with the lowest intake. The researchers specifically noted improvements in peripheral arterial flow, meaning blood flow to the legs, and described K2 as potentially one of the most significant nutritional factors in cardiovascular disease prevention. It is critical to understand that vitamin K2 is completely different from vitamin K1. Vitamin K1, found in leafy greens like spinach and kale, is primarily involved in blood clotting and has almost no effect on arterial calcification. Vitamin K2 is found in fermented foods and certain animal products. The richest source on the planet is natto, a traditional Japanese fermented soybean dish, which contains the MK7 form of K2 in enormous concentrations. Japanese seniors who eat natto regularly have dramatically less arterial calcification than Western seniors of the same age, and researchers have directly linked this to their K2 intake. If natto is not something you can tolerate, and honestly, most people outside Japan find the taste and texture extremely challenging, the next best food sources are aged hard cheeses like Gouda and Emmental, grass-fed butter, and egg yolks from pasture-raised chickens. For supplementation, you specifically want the MK7 form, not MK4, because MK7 has a half-life of approximately 72 hours in your body, meaning a single daily dose provides continuous calcium redirecting activity around the clock. MK4, by contrast, is cleared from your blood in roughly 8 hours. The effective dose is 180 to 200 micrograms of MK7 daily, taken with a meal that contains fat, because K2 is fat-soluble and absorbs poorly on its own. Take it with eggs, avocado, or a drizzle of olive oil, and you dramatically increase the amount that reaches your bloodstream. Now here is where it gets really important. The next two vitamins do not just support your circulation. They fundamentally transform it. Number 2, vitamin D3. Vitamin D3 is classified as a vitamin, but it behaves like a hormone. It enters your cells, binds to receptors on your DNA, and directly controls the expression of over 1,000 genes, including dozens that regulate how your blood vessels function, how they relax, how they repair themselves, and how they respond to the demands of pumping blood against gravity in your legs all day long. When vitamin D3 activates its receptors in the endothelial cells lining your leg arteries, it triggers the production of nitric oxide, the single most important molecule for blood vessel dilation. Nitric oxide is the master signal that tells the smooth muscle around your vessels to relax, widen, and let blood pass through freely. After age 40, your body's natural nitric oxide production begins declining. By the time you reach 70, you may be producing less than half of what you made in your younger years. Vitamin D3 is one of the most effective ways to restore that production. The Framingham Heart Study, one of the longest-running cardiovascular studies in medical history, found that adults over 70 with vitamin D levels below 30 nanograms per milliliter had 80% more arterial stiffness and 62% worse blood flow to their extremities compared to those with levels above 50 nanograms per milliliter. The researchers found this translated directly into measurable differences in walking speed, leg strength, and balance. Here is the problem facing nearly every senior watching this. After age 70, your skin produces approximately 75% less vitamin D from sun exposure than it did when you were 25. Even if you spend time outdoors daily, which most seniors do not get enough of, your body simply cannot convert sunlight into D3 efficiently anymore. This is why supplementation is not optional for older adults. It is essential. The optimal protocol, according to Dr. Adrian Vale, is 5,000 international units of D3 daily, taken with your fattiest meal. This is important because D3 is fat-soluble, and research from the Cleveland Clinic showed that taking D3 with a meal containing at least 15 grams of fat increased absorption by 50% compared to taking it on an empty stomach. There is one critical pairing you must know about. Vitamin D3 increases your body's absorption of calcium from food. That is normally a good thing. But if that extra calcium has nowhere to go, it ends up in your artery walls, worsening the very calcification we just discussed. This is why Dr. Adrian Vale always recommends taking D3 together with vitamin K2. The D3 pulls calcium into your blood. The K2 directs it into your bones. Together, they create a system where calcium helps you instead of hurting you. Wild-caught salmon, sardines, and mackerel are the best food sources of D3, and they come packaged with omega-3 fatty acids that independently support vessel flexibility. But eating fish daily is difficult for most people, which is why a high-quality D3 supplement paired with K2-MK7 is the simplest, most reliable approach for seniors. What you have learned so far would already put you ahead of most people your age in terms of vascular support. But none of it compares to what comes next. The number one vitamin on this list does something so fundamental to your circulation that without it, your blood literally cannot carry oxygen to your legs, no matter how open or flexible your vessels are. This one changes everything. Number 1, vitamin B1, thiamine. If every other vitamin on this list works on the pipes, vitamin B1 works on the engine itself. Thiamine is the metabolic spark plug that your cells need to convert glucose into energy. Without it, the mitochondria inside your muscle cells and your endothelial cells simply cannot function. They starve, they slow down, and when the cells lining your blood vessels lose energy, they stop producing the nitric oxide, the prostaglandins, and the repair signals that keep circulation alive in your legs. This is not theoretical. This is measured, documented, and published. A study from Johns Hopkins University demonstrated that thiamine administration directly improved endothelium-dependent vasodilation, the ability of blood vessels to relax and open in response to demand. The researchers found that thiamine essentially rescued the endothelium from dysfunction by restoring the energy supply that these cells need to produce nitric oxide and respond to blood flow signals properly. What makes this so critical for seniors is that thiamine deficiency is far more common than anyone realizes. Data from the National Institutes of Health indicates that up to 20 to 30% of older adults show laboratory indicators of some degree of thiamine deficiency. The reasons are straightforward. As you age, your gut absorbs less thiamine from food. Many common medications, particularly diuretics, that millions of seniors take for blood pressure, actively deplete thiamine from your body. And the modern diet, heavy in refined grains and processed foods, provides far less thiamine than it did even 50 years ago. A massive analysis using data from nearly 28,000 participants in the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey found that higher dietary vitamin B1 intake was significantly associated with reduced risk of hypertension, heart failure, and cardiovascular mortality. The correlation was dose-dependent, meaning the more thiamine people consumed, the lower their risk, and the association was especially pronounced in adults over 50 and in those with existing cardiovascular risk factors. The symptoms of thiamine deficiency in your legs are almost identical to what most people write off as normal aging. Heavy legs, muscle weakness, burning or tingling in your feet and calves, cramping that wakes you at 3 a.m, legs that feel exhausted after walking distances that used to be effortless. These are not the inevitable costs of getting older. These are signs that your cells are running out of fuel. Here is where it gets truly remarkable. Benfotiamine, a fat-soluble form of vitamin B1, has been shown in clinical studies to penetrate nerve and endothelial cells far more effectively than standard water-soluble thiamine. Research published in the journal Diabetes Care showed that benfotiamine reduced markers of endothelial dysfunction and vascular inflammation in ways that standard thiamine supplements could not match. This means it does not just feed your cells. It actively protects the blood vessel lining from the inflammatory damage that accelerates circulation decline. For food sources, the richest options are pork, black beans, sunflower seeds, and whole grain rice. But here is the critical problem for seniors. The thiamine in food is bound to phosphate groups that require healthy stomach acid and specific enzymes to liberate. If your digestive capacity has declined with age, or if you take acid-reducing medications, you are almost certainly not absorbing enough thiamine from food alone, regardless of how well you eat. Dr. Adrian Vale recommends a two-phase approach. For the first month, take 300 milligrams of benfotiamine daily with your largest meal to rapidly restore depleted cellular stores. After that, transition to a maintenance dose of 150 milligrams daily. Take it with food that contains some fat, because benfotiamine's fat-soluble structure means it absorbs best in the presence of dietary lipids. And here is a combination that amplifies the effect dramatically. Pair your benfotiamine with magnesium, because magnesium is a required cofactor for the enzyme that converts thiamine into its active form, thiamine pyrophosphate, inside your cells. Without adequate magnesium, even perfect thiamine levels cannot be fully utilized by your body. 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate at bedtime complements your morning benfotiamine perfectly. Within weeks, many seniors report that their legs feel warmer, lighter, and more responsive. The nighttime cramping that seemed permanent begins to ease. The heaviness that made every staircase feel like a mountain starts to lift. Not because anything magical happened, but because you finally gave your cells the one nutrient they were desperate for. Listen. If you have stayed with me through this entire video, you are not someone who accepts decline without a fight. You are someone who wants answers and is willing to act on them. Here is what Dr. Adrian Vale recommends as your starting point. Begin with vitamin B1 as benfotiamine and vitamin D3 paired with K2, because these three will give you the fastest, most noticeable improvements in leg circulation. Then layer in niacin, vitamin C, and vitamin E over the following weeks as your body builds its foundation. You do not need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. Small daily actions compounded over weeks and months create results that will genuinely surprise you. Thank you so much for watching. If this video gave you something valuable, please hit that subscribe button and share it with someone you care about whose legs are not carrying them the way they used to. I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.